I am going to talk about Angela Davis and her theory on housework. Angela Davis was born January 26, 1994. She's an American political activist, scholar, communist, and author. Um, she was also the leader of the Communist Party USA and had close relations with the Black Panther Party, despite never being an official member of the party. So, one of her main points from the chapter, The Approaching Obsolescence of Housework, a Working Class Perspective, from her book Woman, Class, and Race, is that housework is invisible, repetitive, exhausting, unproductive, uncreative. The same work every day that really isn't productive or accomplishing, but it needs to be done. The term housewife comes up a lot in this chapter because there was a time in capitalist North America where women were only housewives. Angela says housework is like cooking, washing dishes, doing laundry, making beds, sweeping. Apparently consumed some to 3 to 4,000 hours on the average housewife's year. In post-capitalist society, uh, housework was respected just as much as men's jobs outside the house. They manufactured, the wives manufactured most of the products required for the families, and they were the guardians of their families. In later 19th century, home goods were being made in factories, and in Angela's words, while home manufactured goods were valuable primarily because they fulfilled basic family needs, the importance of factory produced commodities resided overwhelmingly in their exchange value and their ability to fulfill employers' demand for profit. So, since housework did not generate profit, domestic labor was naturally defined as inferior work as compared to the capitalist wage labor. This economic change was the birth of the housewife. Propaganda represented the vocation, all women as a function of their roles at home, and women who wanted to work for wages became treated as kind of aliens who stepped out of their natural sphere. So Davis traveled to Tanzania around the 1980s, and she recalled that housework as far as the Maasai women, who were the woman she got to meet in Tanzania. According to them, as far as they're concerned, housework entails not only cooking, cleaning, and child rearing, but house building as well. And it was regarded just as important as their men's cattle rearing activities. The woman's housework was no less productive and no less essential than the economic contributions of the Maasai men. So, a movement called the Wages for Housework movement originated in Italy around 1974. Um, so they had a public demonstration that took place, um, addressing the crowd assembled in the city of Mestre. One of the speakers proclaimed, "Half of the world's population is unpaid. This is the biggest contradiction of all, and this is our struggle for wages for housework, and the strategic demand at this moment, in the most revolutionary demand for the working class. If we win, the class wins. If we lose, the class loses." So a U.S. representative of the movement said, "We are not interested in making our work more efficient or more productive for capital. We are interested in reducing our work and ultimately refusing it altogether. But as long as we work in the home for nothing, no one really cares how long or how hard we work, for capital only introduces advanced technology to cut costs of production after wages gains by the working class." So Angela talks about a woman, Anne Oley, who conducted interviews in her book, The Sociology of Housework. So she discovered that even housewives who first didn't mind housework soon showed a deep dissatisfaction with it. Um, so this was a comment from a woman who had an outside job as well. "I suppose I don't mind housework because I'm not in it all day. I go to work and I'm only at housework half the day. If I did it all day, I wouldn't like it. Woman's work is never done. She goes on all the time. I'm happier at work than I am at home." And she says you get those days where you feel you get up and you got to do the same old things. You get bored and you're stuck in the same routine. A substantial portion of the housewife's domestic tasks can usually be incorporated into the industrial economy. So, in other words, housework need no longer be considered necessarily and unalterably private in character. So, getting paid for housework does seem intriguing, but is it realistic? Not really. Angela comes to the conclusion that the only way for a woman to free and liberate herself from the home is to really go outside and get an outside job. So she talks about a woman, Mira Ferry, sorry. She interviewed over 100 women in a working community near Boston, and I found almost twice as many housewives as employed wives said that they were dissatisfied with their lives. Yet their ability to leave the isolation of the homes and getting out there and seeing people was just as important as wages, as earnings. So not being in the house all day is a lot healthier for people, and even just taking a walk outside can get the mind and body going. The abolition of housework as the private responsibility of individual women is clearly a strategic goal of women's liberation, but housework needs to be done. And if homes, if it didn't happen, like homes would be in pigsties and soon unlivable. Improving housework seems plausible, making it more fun, switching up the routine every now and then. The thing that can be abolished is housework being thought as a feminine job. According to the reading, more men have become to help their wives around the house. Although housework has become known as a woman's work, and the men are simply helping their wives in their work. So there's also an increase at stay-at-home dads, a term that's becoming more common. For years, my father stayed at home while my mother worked full time, and indeed, he was somewhat of a house husband. But it seemed like the second she got home, the burden seemed to be passed on to her. So, sorry, when she is home, she constantly says how she is doing all the work around the house. If only it wasn't considered work, maybe as more of chores. It would be, wouldn't be so shamed upon. The work around the house should be equal to the husband and wife, and eventually children. So there's less work to be done. Housework can never be fully obsolete, I don't think, but the work itself can be seen as a socially, as a whole family role.